Afternoon Year 6 and welcome to the second lesson of our Changing World topic, where we're going to be looking at the features of coastlines today. Now then, here is your aim and your success criteria, where we are going to be looking at how coastal features have been formed and to see some different coastal features of the UK. But first of all, going back to last week's session, types of weathering. We learned that there was physical weathering, chemical weathering and biological weathering, and there are the different definitions here. So which one would go with which one, and then the picture goes with which one as well. So let's look at physical weathering. Which one is physical weathering? Physical weathering is the bottom one, which is rainwater collects in a crack in the rock, it freezes and forces the crack to widen, and then that freeze-thaw cycle repeats and repeats and repeats. And the example of that one there in the pictures is, of course, the top one. Chemical weathering. Which one of these is chemical weathering? Of course, it is a top one because it's acidic rainwater. Okay, it falls onto the rocks such as limestone, and over time, some of this rock will disappear. What is a demonstration photo there? Of course, it's the second one. And then we have got biological weathering, which must mean that is the middle one. And again, that is roots from trees and other plants may grow into or under rocks with such force that they can cause damage or even split the rock into two. And we've got the example there at the bottom of the tree root growing and cracking the rocks on the ground. So today we're looking at coastlines. Now, what is a coastline? Have a think. What is a coastline? What's the definition of a coastline? What do we expect to see there? And the human geography, what sort of activities happen there? That's human geography. What do we do in those places? And then the physical geography is what natural features might you expect to see? What features of the landscape do we see at the coastlines? Have a little think to yourself. What would we see? Okay. Now, the features of a coastline. Here are some. Again, going to these words here. We've got human geography and physical geography. These are some physical geography features that we would find at a coastline. Okay, natural features that are there. So the first part is a coast. Okay, the edge of the land. We then have the bay. Now, this is important for some of you today. A bay, we'll go into a little bit more detail later, but this is a bay here. It's where the land is going inwards. Okay, so the sea is coming towards the land in this sort of U shape. Okay, so you can see the two bays here. Next up, we've got the headland, which is this part here. The headland is the part of the land that is sticking out. You can see it's almost coming to a point. Okay, it's the headland, the part that is coming out to the sea. We've got the beach, of course, sand. Okay. We've got dunes up at the top corner here. Now, dunes, they're basically piles of sand, okay? Large sort of hills of sand. We've got the caves. I'm sure you've all heard of caves before. Cliff. An arch. Just see, just in this photo here, there's just an arch just there, okay? Think of an archway. Again, that sort of entrance going through something. We've got a stack and a stump. Notice the height of the stack compared to a stump. And then finally, we have got a spit. Okay. So these are different features of a coastline. Now, this is what you may not find all of these at a single coastline. You may only find certain areas. It's very unlikely you'll find all of them at the same coastline. Okay. You'll often find different features at different coasts. So, squares, you need to be paying attention for this one. Squares for English, okay? Your work today is going to be about bay and headlands, and you're going to be talking to, well, you're going to be doing some work about these, so make sure that you're paying close attention. Now, bay and headland. If a coastline is made of sections of harder and softer rock, then these will erode at different speeds when they're attacked by the waves. So you can see I've got the hard rock, and I've got the soft rock. So, as the waves come in and erode, they take away, they eat away at the rock, okay? This softer rock will erode quicker, meaning it'll go in faster than the hard rock, the headland. And that's why I'm left with these sort of U-shaped bends, okay? Because the water, the waves, okay, are eating away at the rock, they're eroding the rock quicker than they would do on the headland, which is a harder rock. So that is how a bay and a headland are made. Now let's have a look at triangles. Now triangles you are going to be doing today, you're going to be looking at how beaches and dunes are made. And I've got a short video for you to watch. So sit back, relax and watch.
Where does the sand on the beach come from? Beaches can be crowded or empty and remote. And the sand is great for building castles and sculptures. You can also build islands with sand, like this one in Dubai. Most of it actually originates in mountains. Humans have to work very hard to break up pieces of stone, while nature does it more elegantly, if more slowly. When water enters gaps in stone and freezes, it eventually splits the rock. The pieces that fall off are carried away by streams and rivers to the sea. The process of erosion continues as the stones rub against each other along the way. In the tropics, parrotfish also play a major role in the formation of sandy beaches. They chew on coral and then poop the gritty bits out again. Ocean currents transport the fragments of coral to the shore. Waves dump them on the beach, along with large quantities of sand from the seabed.
And finally, we have got circles. Circles, you are going to be looking at how arches, stacks and stumps form. So you're going to watch this little video about caves, cliffs, arches, stacks and stumps, and to learn a little bit more about it. Now again, the key information here is it almost goes in this order. Well, it does go in this order. We start with cracks, which moves into a cave, to a large cave, which would eventually lead into an arch. That arch would eventually collapse, leaving us with a stack. And of course, over time, as this erodes, it will leave us with the stump. So you can see the process moving along here. So watch this video to learn a little bit more about it and to see some examples. So let's have a small look at one more thing, which is called a spit. Now a spit is formed by deposition. If you think back to our rivers and the units we did in there, we learned about erosion, which we're doing right now, okay? The process of water eating away at something, eroding, okay, eating away at it, changing it. Deposition is the opposite. It's where things, in this case, where waves and tidal waves will leave materials on the side, okay? Deposition means to leave. So a spit is formed by deposition. What happens? The tide carries eroded material, so them small fragments of rock, carries that eroded material along the coastline. It then deposits that material onto the side. So these deposits form a long, thin area. So what happens is the water, the tides eat away at the rock. The small piece of rock are then transported along here, and they're left, causing more land to be formed. Okay. Now, changing winds may cause this spit to form a hook shape. Okay, as it blows it across, more of a hook like that. Okay, rather than a straight piece of line. And then mud flats develop on the inland side, so the side closest to the land. Then that would develop into like a muddy area. And again, this is how a spit is formed. So let's have a look at some real features here now before you go into your work. So these are all features found from the UK. So these are stack rocks that have been found in Wales. You can see very, very tall. They are not stumps yet, and they've not been eroded far enough. Once they would have been just complete lands, but again, it has eaten, the tidal waves have eaten away at the rock. They've eroded the rock, causing a bay to be formed. And of course, the land that did go across here has since collapsed. Notice there's not much sand here. There's a bay, not much sand though, there's no dunes. notice that you will not find all of these features at one single point. Here we've got a spit, as we've just mentioned. This is from Spurn Head in East Yorkshire, which is just up here on the map. Again, we can see here how it's in a hook shape, and we can see it's land that is being used. Again, this part here is where materials have been deposited. Okay, so those small pieces of rock have been deposited by the waves. We've got caves here in Cornwall. Cornwall is down here in the south of England. Again, you can see the caves there. We can see sort of the cliffs on the side. Again, very rocky, not much beach. We've got a bay area, which is just being cut out of this photo here. We've got the needles, which are stacks. These are not stumps. They might look small, but they're actually very, very large. Okay, so they are still stacks at the moment. Again, this would have been land going across at the top until the waves have eroded the bottom of them, causing the arches to then collapse, leaving our stacks, which will eventually, over many years, turn into stumps. We have got Durdle Door, which is an arch located in a bay in Dorset. And now, notice on this one, we actually do have some sand here. Okay, we've got the sand, we've got the cliffs, almost, I would say, a bay here as it's eating away. But notice I've not got any stacks at the moment because this is an arch. This part at the top has not yet collapsed. I've still got my arch, but eventually erosion over time will cause this to collapse, leaving me with a stack, and then of course eventually a stump. Now, your work today is to sort the captions on your sheets into the correct order. Okay, each one of you has got a different task. It depends on what group you are in for English. So if you are in squares for English, you will be doing bays and headlands. If you're in triangles, you'll be looking at beaches and dunes. And if you're in circles, you'll be looking at arches, stacks, and stumps. You will need to cut out the captions and stick them in the right place. And then you will need to draw a diagram of what is actually happening. Now, of course, if you don't have a printer or you would prefer to do it on paper, of course, that is absolutely fine. You'll just be showing either 4 or 6 stages of your process, and then you'll be writing and drawing what happens. Okay, so use the sheets to help you. They're available on Google Drive if you don't have access to your parents' email address or you've not yet got them. So please make sure you get this done, and you are sending it to me today. It needs to be done this afternoon, please. So, as usual, Year 6, if you need any help, send me a message and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, have a lovely session, and I look forward to seeing your work before 3:30 today. Thank you very much.